Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Leese. Here are today's top stories. Office for National Statistics figures show only 3% of people have long COVID, less than previously feared. Italy approves some of the strictest COVID restrictions in the world, meaning all workers must carry a vaccine passport, the so-called Green Pass, from October. Non-compliant workers face fines and risk suspension without pay. And migrants in Calais say they dream of a peaceful life as they set their hopes on reaching the UK.
I want to work, I want to have a good life, I want to relax my mind.
The latest figures from the Office for National Statistics suggests the proportion of people experiencing long COVID is lower than previously feared. NTD's Eddie Aiken has the story.
Office for National Statistics, or ONS, figures show that fewer than 1 in 30 people with COVID have symptoms lasting for 3 months or more, often referred to as long COVID. An ONS report in April estimated the proportion to be about 1 in every 10. The latest figures suggest long COVID may be less common than previously feared. The symptoms include fever, headache, tiredness, shortness of breath, and others. People with high levels of virus in their body when testing positive are more likely to have long COVID. The ONS study comes as new research from the Murdoch Children's Research Institute in Australia suggests long COVID symptoms rarely persist in children and adolescents beyond 12 weeks. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
The UK will study the use of mixed vaccines on children. Scientists hope the result can provide more information on how to best vaccinate children. NTD's Joanne Robson brings us the details.
A study will look into the immune responses of children to mixed doses of different COVID-19 vaccines. The trial, called COMCOV3, will give 12 to 16-year-olds a first dose of the Pfizer vaccine. That will be followed 8 weeks later by either a second full dose or a half dose of the Pfizer shot, a full dose of Novavax's vaccine, or a half dose of Moderna. The trial's lead researcher, Matthew Snape of the Oxford Vaccine Group, says the concern is about the risks of myocarditis, particularly with the second dose of Pfizer vaccine in young men. The trial is recruiting 360 volunteers. Snape says though the sample is not large, it would be reassuring to see if mixed doses lower the risk. Children in the UK aged 12 to 15 will be vaccinated from next week, while those aged 16 to 17 have been eligible for shots since August. Chief medical officers have decided to offer children 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine. They say the advice about the second doses will be given at a later date, after more data is gathered. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
The Italian government approved on Thursday some of the strictest anti-COVID measures in the world. It is making it obligatory for all workers to carry a health passport, a so-called Green Pass. NTD's Eddie Aitken has more on this.
Italian workers in both the public and private sectors must display a health pass to access their workplaces from the 15th of October. The Italian government adopted such a decree on Thursday. The measure is a first by a major European country. The Green Pass is a certificate showing someone has received at least 1 COVID-19 vaccine dose, tested negative or recently recovered from the disease.
Lo facciamo per 2 ragioni fondamentali.
We are doing this for 2 crucial reasons. First, to make labor places even more safe, because the Green Pass is a freedom tool that makes workplaces safe. And the second reason is to make our vaccination campaign even stronger.
La nostra campagna di vaccinazione.
Non-compliant workers face fines of up to £1,280 and employers up to £850. Workers risk suspension without pay but cannot be sacked. The government also argues the measure is necessary to avoid another lockdown and not hamper economic growth. Reactions in Rome are mixed.
I agree with the government measure. It is a fair measure and gives us the opportunity to work safely and avoid future closures. In my opinion, it is not fair because I am a free citizen. I can decide whether or not to get a green pass. When there is an obligation, we no longer live in a democracy, but in a dictatorship. So I do not agree.
There have been protests around the country in recent weeks against the growing pressure to get a jab. But most political parties, as well as the main employers' federation, are backing the move. Around 74% of Italians have had at least one shot, broadly in line with most other EU countries. The government says it expects an enormous acceleration of jabs simply by the announcement of the decree. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Police made a number of arrests today as environmental campaigners blocked the M25 for the third time this week. The Transport Secretary demanded swift action by police to clear the road. Here's NTD's Anna Rodriguez with more.
80 members of the environmental group Insulate Britain blocked a number of junctions to the M25 motorway on Friday morning. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps called the protest dangerous and counterproductive in a post on Twitter. He also wrote, "This sort of behavior achieves nothing, puts drivers at risk and increases pollution." This is the third protest by the group this week. Seen here on Wednesday, they caused a major disruption to rush hour traffic. The group want the British government to commit to providing insulation for 29 million homes. Insulate Britain said a number of those involved in Friday's protests had been released from police custody just hours earlier, after arrests at their previous demonstrations. The Metropolitan Police Deputy Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor said in a statement, "This behaviour goes beyond the parameters of reasonable exercise of protest rights and disproportionately impacts the rights of others to go about their daily business." Surrey Police said on Friday they've made 24 arrests at 2 major interchanges and the road is now clear. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
A record number of nearly 15,000 migrants have arrived in the UK by crossing the English Channel. More are determined to follow. NTD's Kos Temenes has the story.
In Calais, hundreds of migrants have set up a makeshift camp near the city's hospital. Abdul Rahman Rahmani arrived from Afghanistan in recent weeks. He wants to go to Britain.
We came here because of work and want to have a good life to relax my life and my future. I want to go and there I want to work, I want to have a good life, I want to relax my mind. No war, just I live in a peaceful life.
He says life is harsh in Calais as he doesn't have anywhere to sleep.
This problem when I make a tent, police come and take our tent and say me go from here, don't live here. There's no place to live here. But we can't do nothing. We should live here to try to take my goal.
At the makeshift camp, charitable organizations distribute food and basic supplies. Some migrants huddle around an electricity station to charge their phones. Fayyad Al-Ahmed arrived this week from Syria.
I come from Idlib in Syria. We crossed the wall. After that, we ran a good distance for around 1 or 2 hours. We went to a place where a car was waiting for us to get us through the Turkish border.
Al-Ahmed says he is determined to get to Britain.
Sometimes I see people that have been here for a long time and they're struggling, but by God's will, I'll return.
Nearly 15,000 migrants have made the crossing to the UK so far this year. The government accuses Paris of inaction over the high numbers. While French police are preventing more crossings than in previous years, they have only partially stemmed the flow. The shore is too long, the migrants too numerous, and the smugglers too successful at evading security. Last week, the government approved plans to turn migrant dinghies around mid-channel. Kos Temenes, NTD News.
Winners of the Royal Botanical Art and Photography Show are unveiled. The intricate works just went on display at London's Saatchi Gallery and will be open to the public tomorrow. NTD's Jen Werrell went to take a look.
Detail, accuracy and aesthetics. This set of illustrations by Francesca Ross is one of the winners of the gold medal in this year's Royal Horticultural Society Art and Photography Show.
Francesca has shown us the flower from different angles, as well as the full fruit and the cross-section from two different directions. So we've got a huge amount of information that's been captured in this single drawing.
A set of drawings from Pauline Trim, including an investigation into a European elder plant, is also a gold winner. The criteria for judging an artwork includes how well a viewer can understand a piece. In some cases, the artists have grown the plant themselves.
Some of the artists who have exhibited here today have maybe spent 3 or 4 years growing their specimens, so they've really understood the conditions that they require and are able to really give a kind of a full picture of the fruit or the flower from its first emergence through to being able to dissect it.
You can see the intricate detail in these paintings. It's not just about it being aesthetically pleasing, but scientifically accurate.
What's particular about botanical art?
Well, one of the things that you really want to be able to see is the character of the plant, so to really understand something of it. And I think you'll agree, you get a real sense of the weight and the form and the shape of the fruit here, and the texture of the skin. So I think you really understand what she's trying to convey and her own journey in understanding these tomatoes.
The criteria for judging an artwork includes how well a viewer can understand a piece.
So you've got the combination of the scientific as well as the aesthetic, and is it pleasing to look at? Is it something that actually draws you in and you want to be able to see more? And can you understand what you're seeing as well? Can you read the painting?
The pieces are on display at the Saatchi Gallery until October the 3rd. Jane Werrell, NTD News, London.
Still to come, the iconic Arc de Triomphe was wrapped in plastic this week in the name of art. We hear from tourists who arrive at the monument and find things not as they expected. That and more after the break. Russia on Friday began 3 days of voting for a new parliament. The election comes after the biggest crackdown on Kremlin's critics in years. NTD's Joanne Robson has the story.
Residents of the Russian Far East city of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky were among the first voters who went to the polls on Friday to elect a new parliament in a 3-day vote.
First of all, it is our duty to vote. Secondly, we should support our government and be useful as a people.
I think that everyone's choice matters. We have the choice and we should express our opinion.
There's no expectation that United Russia President Vladimir Putin's party will lose its dominance in the Russian parliament, the Duma. The main question is whether it will retain its 2/3 majority that allows it to amend the constitution. Putin on Thursday urged Russians to vote.
Elections of the new parliament is without doubt the most important event in the life of our society and our country. We are all equally interested in responsible, efficient and respected people being elected.
Both Putin's and United Russia's ratings have been under pressure. That's after years of faltering living standards compounded by frustrations over the pandemic. Allies of jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny accused the Kremlin of a sweeping crackdown ahead of the election. They are barred from running for office because Navalny's network was banned as extremist. Other members of the opposition have accused the authorities of using dirty tricks to sabotage their campaigns. The Kremlin denies any wrongdoing. The elections in Moscow and several regions will feature the use of electronic voting for the first time. Critics fear it makes elections more open to abuse. The vote is also seen as a dry run for the presidential election in 2024. Putin has not said if he will seek re-election. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
Google and Apple have removed a voting app by jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny from their stores. This comes after Russia accused the US tech firms of meddling in its parliamentary elections. Allies of Navalny plan to use the app to organize a tactical voting campaign in an effort to thwart the chances of the ruling United Russia Party getting re-elected. The app gives people detailed recommendations on who to vote for. Navalny ally Leonard Volkov called it a shameful day, accusing Google and Apple of buckling under what he described as a Kremlin campaign of blackmail. The Kremlin welcomed the decision. Russia goes to the polls today. Tourists in Paris reacted with a mix of surprise and disdain on Tuesday when they discovered the iconic Arc de Triomphe monument had been covered in plastic. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us this report.
Workers on harnesses spent several days in developing the 164-foot 19th century Arc de Triomphe in a silvery blue recyclable plastic curtain. It's a project first imagined decades ago by the late Bulgarian-born Christo. Tourists had mixed reactions towards the installation.
Wait, so is this the actual installation, or are they doing something under it?
The toilet paper? A big toilet paper, a big curtain around the Triumph.
I don't really like it. I think it takes away from the beauty of the architecture. My husband had never seen it, and so I just made him walk 2 miles, and he's not very happy about it, so.
I think it's not beautiful, very beautiful, but I think it's something new, something special, and I think it's okay, and I think it's artwork, so.
I saw that he's already done that with the Pont-Neuf Bridge ages ago, and on a Berlin monument. It looks like it's his signature. I'm not an expert on this, but it's a bit like gift wrapping. It's nice, it's a change, it's a temporary exhibition, not bad.
The work, known as L'Arc de Triomphe Wrapped, was finally brought to life by Christo's nephew, who said it was a promise he made to his uncle. Christo was known for his larger-than-life installations. He wrapped a stretch of coastline in Australia and the Reichstag Parliament building in Berlin. He strung up a huge curtain in part of a canyon in Colorado. He worked closely with his wife on the projects. The pair covered Paris's Pont-Neuf Bridge in yellow cloth in 1985. Tourists will still be able to visit the Arc de Triomphe and its panoramic terrace. Eddie Aiken, NTD News.
A Spanish man has found an unusual way to deal with plastic waste. He turns what he collects at his local beach into trendy furniture items. NTD's Cost M&S brings us more.
Shocked by the sheer amount of plastic waste, Humberto Les decided to leave his job in Barcelona. The design engineer went home to the island of Gran Canaria to clean up the coastline. His company turns the plastic waste he finds at the beach into furniture.
Decidí dejar todo lo que tenía, todo el trabajo que tenía y la oportunidad, la estabilidad.
I decided to leave my job, stability, to come back here to develop a project to clean the coastline by designing furniture, because I realized that the coast could not be cleaned in an altruistic manner. So I found a way to give economic value to the waste found in the coast.
Humberto finds all kinds of plastic waste in his collection expeditions, from hard hats to bottle caps. He picks up an average of 5 kilos at a time. He then sorts the plastic waste by color to create bright products, from modern space-age stools to clothes hangers.
Why make furniture? Because it is a way of giving it a lifespan that is similar to plastic. If plastic lasts years, why make something that will last months or weeks? I'll make a product that lasts years, like plastic does.
Humberto expects the clothes hangers to go on sale before the end of the year. His long-term goal is to create large products out of recycled plastic that will have a long life. According to the United Nations, less than 10% of all plastic has been recycled. Cost M&S, NTD News.
In southern France, knights during the Crusades left behind a vineyard that is still being taken care of today. Winemakers are keeping this tradition alive, and they continue to make one of the tastiest red wines in the country. Here's NTD's France correspondent David Vivez with more.
Positioned between a mountain range and the Mediterranean Sea, this vineyard in southern France stretches miles. It produces a famed red wine, the Banyuls. The history of the beverage began 700 years ago on these hills. The Knight Templar that led the crusade in the Middle Ages chose this region to grow and reap their liquor. This long-living custom still exists thanks to a group of wine producers who created the brand Terre des Templiers, or Lands of the Templars. Clément Faux is one of the managers that welcomed us.
Our grape variety is the Grenache. There is the white one, the grey one, and here our signature variety, the black one.
This is a 100-year-old grapevine tree. Just like other plants, its roots are several dozen feet long, because they have to search for minerals and nutrients.
This is very poor soil, made of stone. Only 10 centimeters of earth, the rest is stone. But it is very good soil for this specific variety of the Grenache, surprisingly.
To cultivate the vines, the winemakers apply an ingenious method used by the medieval knight. The Templars were called the sculpture of mountains. That's because they created these terraces. They've used cutted stones to create walls in order to let the water circulate through the vineyard. The grape harvest, which ended a week ago, followed a year of work on the vine trees. The color and the taste of the wines reflect the weather when the grapes grew. The sun in southern France usually gives the grapes a very sweet taste. The wine is then stored for about 8 years in these huge barrels.
The Templars were called the sculptors of mountains. That's because they created those terraces. They have used cutted stones in order to create wall to let the water circulate through the vineyard.
3 million bottles of wine are sold from this cave each year. Due to its poor soil, this vineyard only produces around 1/3 of what an average vineyard in France produces. But the quality of the Banyuls has made them famous. It is also said in the region that local pirates discovered another maturation process, leaving the wines in bottles and exposing them to the sun for days. But that's another story. David Vivez, NTD News.
Guinness World Records reveals its latest record breakers in the 2022 edition of the popular book. Entries range from the dog with the longest ears to the world's tallest teenager. Here's NTD's Joanne Robson with the story.
Guinness launches the 2022 edition of its annual record book this week. And what made the cut this year? For one, the ears of a dog named Lou, measuring over 13 inches long.
My name is Paige. My dog Lou has the world record for the world's longest ears.
British gymnast Bethany Lodge set 2 records, fastest 100-metre forward rolls and the most backward somersault burpees by a female in 30 seconds.
It feels incredible to achieve a Guinness World Records title. It's something that I never even considered doing. I always used to get the books when I was little and used to read through them and just look at all the incredible things that people could do.
Olivier Richters, also known as the Dutch Giant, is an unrivaled bodybuilder, at least in terms of his height.
I'm 2'18" and I hold the Guinness World Records title of being the tallest non-competitive bodybuilder of the world.
That's over 7 feet tall. Younger than Richters, this boy ranks as the tallest teen in the world. He stands nearly 7.5 feet tall.
I see a page that is the tallest teenager, and he wasn't tall as me, so I was like, oh, maybe I can get it, and I did it, so.
As for other records, this dog and cat duo from Canada earned the record for the fastest 5 metres on a scooter by a dog and cat. Joanne Robson, NTD News.
That's your news for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.